tonight is all about you guys. My mission is to serve and support you as much as I physically can. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you have a notepad and pen, I'd whip it out. If you don't, you can type it in the notes section in your phone. But before we begin, I always like to ask a couple of questions so that I can gauge where everyone's at, because we're all new to each other. So everyone raise your right hand for me. Hi, hi, hi. So I'm curious to know, who has a morning routine? You all have a morning routine. Okay, who sticks to their morning routine every single day? Oh my God! Like one person. Okay, put your hands back up. I'm curious to know, who has some form of a spiritual practice? Okay, who commits to their spiritual practice every single day? Guys! Seriously? Okay, well, this is good because you're all in the right place, because tonight I want to talk about spiritual practices and morning routines and why they're so important. I'm going to help you guys personalize and create your own, one that you can actually stick to. Does that sound good? Yeah. So the reason why this is so important is because when you create space for a spiritual practice, and I'm going to dive deep into that in a minute, and a morning routine, what you essentially are doing is setting yourself up for success. You're setting yourself up for a successful day. You're connecting with yourself. You're getting grounded. You're raising your vibration, and you're basically sending yourself out the door in the morning vibrating at a higher frequency, grounded, connected, and like ready for a kick-ass day. It's like if you were to have children and you would send them off to school. Who has kids in this room? Yeah, quite a few people. If you have, you send your kids off, you wouldn't send them out into the day with no lunchbox, with like one sock on, with half their uniform put together. You'd set them up for success, yeah? You'd set them up with a really great foundation for them to succeed during their day. But we often don't do that to ourselves, and then we wonder why our day turns to shit sometimes, and things fall apart and we get stressed and we get overwhelmed. But when you set the foundation for yourself and when you set yourself up, you're basically like putting yourself out into the world, out into the day, ready to have a successful day. Does that make sense? For me personally, it wasn't until I my old morning routine looked like coffee and scrolling through the Instagram and things like that. No, this is before Instagram actually. And it was just not conducive to a successful day. But now my routine looks very, very different. And it really does make such a difference to how I feel, how I show up in the world. And if you want to show up as the best version of yourself, full and glowing and radiant, there's some things that we've got to do, yeah? There's some things that we have to do each day. And by doing them first thing in the morning, you're going out into the day with like, yes, I can achieve anything type of attitude. Does that make sense? So, and seems though that few people have morning routines, but one person sticks to it. We've got to work on this. And I'm excited to do this with you guys tonight because it's so important and it's so fun. So I've basically crafted this 4-step process on how to create the most foolproof spiritual practice and morning routine. And when I say spiritual practice, what I don't mean that you need to be religious and go to church. That's not what I'm talking about. When I refer to a spiritual practice, I mean something that makes you connect with yourself. So that could literally be saying a prayer. It could be a form of meditation. It doesn't have to look a certain way. That's really important. But what does have to happen is there has to be some moment during your day where you connect with yourself. Does that make sense? And ideally, first thing in the morning is going to be way better than later in the day, because we get busy and then we're like, I can't be bothered. So when we do it first thing in the morning, it sets the tone for the rest of the day. Make sense? This is why it's so important. And I want to explore some things that you guys can do tonight. But the first thing I want you guys to write down is, if you already have a spiritual practice, whether it's meditation, prayer, affirmations, maybe your spiritual practice is just lying on the grass, breathing, I don't know. I want you to write down what your current spiritual practice is. If you don't have one, I'd like you to write down what you would like it to be. What you're willing to explore. Because everything that we talk about at the Goddess Group is always an invitation. It's never, everything that I teach is never forced upon you. These are just things that have worked for me, that I have researched and studied and mentored under. Just invitations, and my intention is to help you guys unlock your full potential and be the best version of yourself. And that doesn't happen sitting on your butt. We've got to take action every single day. Sound good? Okay, so does everyone write something down? Did anyone not have anything? Raise your hand. Okay, great. Everyone's got something. So this little spiritual practice is what you're going to do every single day. Actually, let's hear, can you share one of yours?
Meditation.
Meditation. What's yours?
I've got a list.
Go for it. Long list.
Meditation, yoga flows, breathing, journaling.
Beautiful. Meditation, yoga flows, journaling, breathing.
Yeah.
What about you?
I've got meditation, breathwork, yoga, affirmation.
Beautiful. And this is the only time that you're probably allowed to copy anyone. So copy if you want. You know, at school they're like, don't copy your partner. Copy. If you're like, oh, that sounds good, like write it down. What about you?
Mine's also meditation.
Meditation. What about you?
Mine is like mindfulness in the shower in the morning. So,
Yeah.
you know, loving the lathering up of whatever you're using, all those things.
Yeah. And if you can incorporate into that deep breathing, then that and connecting with yourself, not so much, wow, that smells so good, but more like, how am I feeling, and really connecting inward. That's why sometimes sitting in stillness is really powerful, because you're not being distracted by anything. Like, oh, that floral scent, you know what I mean? So incorporating some form of stillness would be amazing as well. Do you want to share yours? Meditation. What about you?
I've got journaling, meditation, and I listen to relaxation recording.
Awesome. What about you?
Meditation and journaling.
Meditation and journaling. Beautiful.
Meditation and gratitude.
Meditation and gratitude. Awesome. What about you?
I had like a slow flow yoga or sun salutation and stillness.
Yeah. Awesome. All of these are great. Does anyone have any others that we haven't mentioned that are really cool? Yeah.
Oracle cards, kind of setting an intention.
Yep. Oracle cards, setting an intention. Awesome. Yes.
I like to listen to different types of musical instruments.
Beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
I research a phenomenon in the world that you might not know about. Like, it sounds really weird, but like combustion or something you have no idea about.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the day, you get to think about that when you're really overwhelmed or stressed.
Awesome. These are all great ideas and things that can really help you get in touch with yourself. But for me, nothing is more powerful than sitting in meditation, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's just 3 minutes and you take 3 breaths, it doesn't matter, or whether it's 33 minutes. It doesn't matter. But when we're doing things like looking up something or playing with oracle cards, these are all great and I think they're amazing, but they are distracting you from connecting inward. And what we ultimately want to do in our spiritual practice is connect inward and just go, okay, how am I feeling? Does that make sense? So I don't want you guys to get distracted by all these other things. So maybe literally your spiritual practice is 3 minutes of meditation or 3 deep breaths. Whatever makes you feel connected inward. We want to do that. Does that make sense? Awesome. So the next thing I want you guys to write down is, what would you ideally like to do in your morning routine? So what do you currently do that's working? What would you like to add in? Is there anything that you've heard, oh, I'd like to do angel cards? You know, is there anything else that you'd like to add into your morning routine? So just jot them down as like little dot points. I'd love to do some yoga. I'd love to do some affirmations. I'd love to dry body brush. What is it that you would ideally like to do? This is on top of your spiritual little practice that you're going to do. And when you're finished writing, just look up so I know how much time to give you guys. It's really important that you are writing down things that light you up, and not what you heard someone else is doing and you're like, oh, I want to do that, and compare yourself to what your friend's doing, or even what I do, you know, what someone else on social media does. It's really important that you do things that feel good for you. Recently, my husband has the most extensive morning routine. I'm not joking, it goes for 3 hours. I'm not exaggerating, right? It goes for 3 hours. It goes literally, he starts at like 5:30 in the morning. And he is the most meticulous, perfectionist person I've ever met. And he has this routine and this structure. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get into it. And I started doing everything he was doing. And it was like freaking exhausting me. I was getting so overwhelmed, so exhausted, stressed, and I started resenting everything. I started resenting meditation. I started resenting yoga. I was like, I don't want to do it, because it started to feel like a chore for me. But that's how he works. He's very like, tick things off the list. Where I'm like, oh, but I just want to do what feels good. That's the feminine. That's what we want to do. We always want to follow the feeling. And I was like, I am done with following your morning routine. I'm like, I'm done. And I had this realization in a meditation. I was like, oh, of course, Melissa. Like, stop comparing yourself to him. Stop. Like, that's what works for him. And that's what he needs to do in order for him to thrive in the day. He needs to do a 3-hour morning routine. And it works. It really does. And then I was like, okay, reevaluate what feels good for me. And I reshuffled everything. I got rid of all of the things that I thought I should do. And I restructured it. And now I'm like, yes, no, this is what lights me up. And now I'm like looking forward to it again. And it excites me. And not only that, I don't resent it anymore. And it doesn't stress me out. Like, this is meant to be your self-care time. This is your time to really nourish and nurture your beautiful soul. Because if you don't do it in the morning, you're not going to do it. You will not do it. I guarantee. You're like, oh, I'll do it before bed. It won't happen. It will not happen. So we've got to set ourselves up for success. And this is why it's really important to find the things that really light you up.